Let me start in a little bit different direction than I planned on going. Ms. Legan, you were asked about adequate funding a minute ago, and I got the sense that while you were told to give a yes or no answer, you want to see the Federal Trade Commission and others receive adequate funding, but it seemed to me that you were not trying to get into the debate as to what the definition of adequate funding is. Am I correct that I read your body language correctly, that you didn't want to get into that debate, but you do want them to be adequately funded?
That's right. It's up to each agency to allocate resources to their enforcement teams. But what we've said is, and what we're seeing with our work with our enforcement partners, is that sometimes the consumer fraud protection folks lack the personnel or resources they need to go after cases. So we welcome information collection or just a way to try to allocate the existing resources.
But it's also true that AI may make this much more efficient, and so we're looking forward to that too. Is that not correct?
That's right. AI poses.
I got to move on to what I really was going to go after,
Sure.
both for you and Mr. Bearque. The good news is that the fraud, while terrible, is on the downward slope, and I hear from my constituents all the time about receiving robocalls. And a couple of years ago, it was all about the fraudulent stuff, and they were concerned about that. But I will tell you, in the last year, particularly in the last few months, the real concern has become Medicare, and particularly Medicare Advantage solicitors, calling up the folks in my district, and I have an older population, generally speaking, than most districts, and they're just driving them crazy with all these calls. And a 2023 survey estimated that 30% of Medicare Advantage eligible beneficiaries receive 7 or more calls a week. I got to tell you, Mr. Chairman and witnesses, I've had constituents who've told me if they only got 7 a day, they'd be thrilled. That would be a down number. So what can we do, because this is a huge issue in my district, what can we do to make that situation better?
Yeah, I think that those calls, if they're robocalls, if they're telemarketing calls, if they may be in violation of the TCPA, they may be in violation of the telemarketing sales rule.
So how do we get them to use, because I've said to folks as I've been talking with them, well, have you put yourself on the do not call list? And they say, yes, but it doesn't seem to change anything. So how do we make that better?
I mean, so one of the things is, and we'd be happy to work with you, we've got to trace
Please.
back those calls. We have to see who is ignoring the law, get that information, get that to the right enforcement authorities to go after them. And we've seen success with that, like the auto warranty campaign was the same. We worked very closely with the states and the FCC, and that went from the most prolific robocall campaign in America to basically zero right now. So that's the answer there.
All right, well, I'll be glad to work with you anyway, because, when I start going to events and I start hearing this at a majority of the events I go to, whether it be a street festival or a meeting of folks, that tells me we got a problem. Ms. Legan, I got the toll texts. Of course, I called my staff assistant and said, how come you haven't kept my account up to date? Not realizing I was on the road, and she said, it's a scam, don't worry about it. But I've gotten a number of those things since then, and some others, and apparently somebody out there thinks I need a new job. And I click delete or report as junk and delete. Does that do any good?
It certainly does. That's one of the key tools that the wireless industry and our partners on the device side have made available for consumers to delete, report junk. You can also forward your scam text to 7726, which spells spam. And both of those are key inputs for wireless providers and our messaging partners in making our algorithms and filtering and blocking more sophisticated and responsive to what we're hearing from consumers out there, like you and others in this room that have gotten those types of texts. In addition, we look at those types of scams and we develop evidence on them and refer them to our law enforcement partners for investigation through our secure messaging initiative as well, so that we're working to target the bad actors responsible.
All right, I appreciate that. Mr., and I hope I get your name right, Wagishpak?
Pretty good, yeah.
All right, not too bad. I don't know that I really have a question for you, but I'll just make a comment. As a recovering attorney, I hate the whole strike suit industry where they get a niche and they just go after things. I want people to be able to sue when they're legitimately harmed. And I just make the offer that if I can work with you in any way to try to make the law so that it lets the legitimate complaint go forward, but stops the strike suits where they're just trying to make it expensive and get a settlement. You talked about that earlier. Just let me know what I can do to be of assistance. I will try.
I appreciate that. That's the balance we're looking for, and the balance is found in other federal statutes all across the code.
All right, I appreciate you. Yield back.